Good morning, Americans. Jericho Green here with you once again. Man, what's going on with this shit? What's going on with this reparations bullshit? Now, what are reparations? Reparations is paying money for a wrong that you've committed. You've wronged someone and you're saying, here, man, here's a couple dollars. My bad. That's all well and good. There's a place for reparations in society. If you commit a crime or, you've wronged someone in some other way, they deserve monetary compensation. But reparations for slavery and or Jim Crow? No, that shit's stupid. So yesterday there were testimonies, and there were people on both sides of the argument. There were people for it, and there were people against it. And there were crowds there. There were a bunch of people outside. There were a bunch of people in the overflow room, and they were very vocal when the people were speaking, when they were testifying. And on the side, the pro-reparation side, you had this guy, I don't know, it was for Nahisi or some shit, last name's Coates. So you had Coates, and you had Danny Glover. Murtaugh, what the fuck are you doing up there? I thought you were getting too old for this shit. This fool's up there talking about, oh, my great-great-grandma or some shit was freed by the Emancipation Proclamation. And of course, yesterday, or was it yesterday or the day before, they did it on Juneteenth, where the slaves were emancipated in Texas, June 19th, 1865. So you got these fools up there singing the same old fucking songs. Me, 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 me. This country was built on slavery. Slaves built this country. And people were, after they were enslaved, after they were freed, then we had to endure hundreds of years of domestic terrorism and Jim Crow and blah, blah, fucking blah. Now, some of that is true, some of it isn't. Slaves did not build America. Slaves helped build America. Slaves helped the economy that financed the building of America. Slaves were not the only ones out there swinging a hammer or working in the fields. There was this other group of people called poor whites, and they helped too. Now, were they abused and enslaved to the extent of African slaves? No. But slaves are not solely responsible for building America. Which America are you talking about? Now, if it's just slaves, for some reason, if you listen to hip hop, there's it's totally off the subject, but his name's Just Blaze. So when I said just slaves, it made me think, and he always says, Just Blaze? So if it was just slaves, then yeah, they had a hand in building phase one of America. Pre-Civil War, a little post-Civil War. But then we get into the 20s and 30s, the big economic boom, the roaring 20s and 30s. That's when you had skyscrapers popping up, the Empire State, New York City blew up, bridges, infrastructure. Then you have after World War II, all these GIs are coming home. They got to do something. So that's when the highways and stuff, the big highway boom. There were people who helped build this country. There were different phases of building America. Now you talking phase two? You talking late 1800s? Well, that's where the Irish come in, and the Italians. You had some Jews over here, some Eastern Europeans. What about the Chinese? They used to dangle them over the side of a hill or a mountain holding dynamite to blast a hole to make a tunnel for the railroad. Sometime they pulled the Chinese dude up fast enough. Sometime all you pulled up was a smoking rope. So how are we going to dissect who gets paid? And one thing we can all agree on, There isn't nairn motherfucker who's alive right now who experienced slavery or owned slaves. Only 5% of white people own slaves. So what about the other 95% who didn't do shit? This shit is too messy. It's too fucked up. It needs to be put to bed. This is like a drunk friend that has trashed your place and thrown up everywhere. They need to go to bed. So does this reparations bullshit. And what they were talking about was H.R. 40. It's a bill that is just about doing an investigation on who would get it, who would pay it, all that kind of shit. This is just a looking into it. This is an exploratory bill. But this is how this shit starts. This is how these things come to pass. It starts with shit. Well, let's just look into it. Well, how the fuck is that? And of course, you got some of the 2020 clown car occupants. Cory Booker, he's up there crying about, African Americans and Jim Crow and shit. Well, if you're so concerned, why don't you give up all your money? Murtaugh, since you're so concerned, cut a check and give away all your fucking money. Kamala, the Ugandan nightmare Harris, the one that went horizontal to go vertical. What about you? You're half Indian, half Jamaican. Somebody in your family, I'm not sure if it was your mother or your father's side, were slave owners. Which further proves my point. If it was on your father's side, he's Jamaican. So were the Jamaicans owning slaves? And if it's on your mother's side, that means Indians are owning slaves, which proves it wasn't just white people. And who are these phantom white people that are going to pay for this? Are the government officials coming out of their pocket personally? Or are you talking taxpayers? Which is all of us, not just white people. So black folks are going to be paying themselves reparations? You see what I mean? You see what kind of messy shit this is? This doesn't make any fucking sense. I posted a video in the community part of my YouTube page, and one of the opponents of this nonsense is named Coleman Hughes. He's a freelance writer, and he's talking about how ridiculous it is that we're going to pay for things that none of us suffered through. But one thing he said that I didn't agree with was it should be paid to people who lived through Jim Crow. Well, how do you prove that you lived through actual Jim Crow? How do you prove it? We're giving you money, you need to prove it. How do you do that? How are you just going to pay the black people? What about some of the white people who helped? What about those two Jewish kids and that white girl who got killed during the freedom riding? How are you going to pay the black people, not the white people? They got beat too. They got sprayed with fire hoses too. And how are you going to prove you went through it? You got an old address book? You got pictures? It's just fucking stupid. It needs to be put to bed. We need to build a brick wall over this and seal it. It's done. If you want to make it in America, work hard. And how is anybody, people were talking about, this pulling yourselves up by the bootstraps is a lie. How the fuck is that? Because you got Cuban families who are willing to collect milk jugs, duct tape them together, grab all their shit, and float over here. What are they coming over here for? You got people trekking through the fucking desert and the mountains of Mexico and South America to get here. What are they coming here for? They're coming here because they know if you work hard, you will make it. So why are all these other groups of people able to do this shit, but black folks can't? It doesn't work. We need money. We need a check. Money doesn't help shit. You can build all the nice schools you want. You can put all this money into the community, and if the people aren't going to take care of it, it's just going to get fucked up. Remember that episode of Chappelle's Show when black people got reparations? You know damn good and well that's exactly what's gonna fucking happen. These ghetto hood motherfuckers are just gonna spend it on fucking yak and rims and stupid ass looking clothes. You know it. And any decent black person doesn't want that shit. I could not accept a reparations check for something I didn't work for. I just couldn't do it. Nobody is alive who had anything to do with slavery. And of course, they had some guilty white liberal. I can't remember her first name, but her last name's Brown. She's part of the biggest slave-owning family in history. Dun, dun, dun. And if you feel so guilty about that, give away all your money. You start the reparations. Lead by example, you fucking idiots. Speaking of idiots, Danny Glover, aren't you one of the celebrities who was all in love with Hugo Chavez? Didn't you have your hand down the front of that dictator's trousers? You're steady rubbing this fool's dick, telling us how great Venezuela is. Why don't we check in with Venezuela right now while they're trapping zoo animals and eating gray meat? Obviously, Murtaugh doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. This is no different. We need to close the wealth gap between African Americans and white people. Then get your African American ass in school or start a business like everybody else. This furthers the narrative that we are the Fabergé eggs of ethnicities. Nobody else is asking for reparations. Well, Jericho, the Japanese got them. Yeah, you know what? They paid the Japanese pretty soon after that shit happened, not 200 fucking years. I had a teacher in high school, Mr. Sugimoto. He got $30,000 from the government for being in one of the internment camps in Watsonville, California, which is not too far from where I'm at right now. They got paid soon after in a reasonable amount of time, especially compared to when slavery ended. They paid the people who were actually affected by it, the people who were actually in the internment camps. They didn't wait 150 years and pay their descendants who don't know shit about it. And that's another thing. Are all black people in America descendants of slaves? Is that the only way black people got here? You know, because we always say nothing is all or every. So all black people can't be descendants of slaves. How are you going to prove that? We're going to team up with 23andMe or 23andMe? We're going to team up with Ancestry.com and start sending out fucking cotton swabs for our cheeks? What the fuck is going on here? How are you going to prove that shit? How many black people know anything about where they originated from in Africa? I'll tell you what, I'll tell you something right now. I don't know, and I don't give a fuck. I do not care about my ancestors in Africa. And guess what? I hope you're sitting down. They don't give a shit about me either. And that's fine. I have no idea where my African ancestors came from, what part of Africa. I don't fucking care. What does that, like my dad would say, what does that have to do with the price of tea in China? Nothing. We have no idea, unless you went through Ancestry.com or 23andMe, you have no fucking idea where your ancestors came from. That shit is so stupid. That's just going to create animosity between the races. Further division, just how they want it. If we're in the same class and you give me an A because it's some shit I wasn't around for, But the white dude or the Mexican dude or the Chinese dude in my class, they got to go off their own merit, earn their own grades? How do you think they're going to look at me? Reparations? What the fuck? Now, should the slaves have been given reparations? Yeah. They should have got their 40 acres and a mule. But don't tell me a check from the government is going to stop the violence and the poverty and the poor education and health in the black community. It won't. That's not what the money is for. We need to repair the family. That will take care of everything else. That will stop the violence. That will stop the poor education. That will stop the poor health. The family unit is the key to everything. I don't know how much clearer I can make that shit. How many community centers have they built? How many after-school programs have they started? It doesn't do shit. Every group has atrocities committed against them. I was going back and forth with some fucking Indian dude. No, I'm not going to call him a Native American. They call themselves Indians. So I'm going back and forth with this Indian dude. He's talking about, oh, Indians were the first people and you're on stolen land, all that bullshit. Oh, but you don't know how good you have it. Reparations. Full Indians get more government assistance than any other group. How's that working out? They get more government money than any other group. How is that working out for you? Not very well. Money from the government isn't going to fix shit. More government is not the solution. And you got Joe Kahanis. Well, we need to start a serious conversation about reparations. Hand me my beer. Girl, shut your stupid 1024th ass the fuck up. You want to help Joe Kahanis? Skin Lizzie? You want to help? Why don't you donate 1,024th of your income? You fucking lying fake ass Indian bitch. We need to start a serious conversation. We need to start a serious conversation about repairing the black family. That's it. That's all we need to talk about. Not reparations, not handouts, not hand-ups. Fix the family, everything else will fall in line. Jericho, is it that simple? Yeah, it's that fucking simple. The most successful groups of people in this country have the lowest number of out-of-wedlock births. That's not a coincidence. You want to pay reparations to the black community? How about this? How about you tell young black boys and girls, if you wait until you're married to have kids, we'll give you some money. Why don't you combat the incentives that are in place now, telling them to get the man out of the fucking house? Family don't mean shit, neither do your lives. Why don't you combat those kind of government help programs? Why don't you do that? Hey, stop having abortions, we'll give you money. Stop accounting for 1/3 of the abortions in this country, we'll give you some money. Finish high school, we'll give you some money. Now, if the family unit was intact, you wouldn't need that shit. Do you see where I'm going with this? This reparation shit is a waste of time. And it's a waste of taxpayer money. Not the reparations part, but these fools sitting up there talking about this shit on the clock, on my dime. But please go to my page, check that video out about Coleman Hughes. Smart kid. And he makes a lot of good points. But just because you get a bunch of famous black people up there talking this shit does not mean I'm gonna go for it. I don't give a fuck what Danny Glover has to say. don't give a fuck what none of these fools have to say. You're not going to convince me that reparations is the way to go. Slavery ended fucking 200 years ago. What the fuck are we talking about here? Assaulticus, Kamala the Ugandan nightmare, Joe Kahanis, Murtaugh, all of you, sit down and shut the fuck up. Stop talking about the silly ass reparations who are only going to hurt people and further divide people. Speaking of people, you know where I'm headed. People in this damn rat race. But you know how it goes. I try to be done with the left, but they just won't let me. Please subscribe, hit that notification bell. Make sure you utilize the PayPal link and the Teespring link to get your green gear. Shout out to my man Leo. He sent me a picture yesterday with his new Jericho green t-shirt. That's what I'm talking about. I am Jericho Green. Man, I'm out.